forest, where the only sound is roaring engines and screaming chainsaws. We're not just cutting wood, we're fighting a battle with every massive tree. Blood, sweat, and sawdust. Welcome to the world of chainsaws. Welcome to the world of Wood Channel. The wind howls, snow blankets the ground, but the machine doesn't stop. The blade digs deeper like steel claws shredding through the frozen wood. Each trimmer is a warning. The fall is near. The operator steps back, eyes locked on the giant. And then, crack. The fateful sound rips the silence, and the massive trunk crashes down, shattering the snow below. A chilling, razor-precise performance that leaves you breathless. In the blackened forest after the fire, a giant tree still stands alone with its scorched trunk. Workers in protective gear approach with a husky 3120 XP chainsaw, long blades cutting deep into the dry, charred stump. Black sawdust flies. The tree shakes and slowly falls down in the hazy smoke. In the middle of the deep green forest, a worker wears protective gear and a helmet. He starts the steel chainsaw, the engine roaring loudly. With each steady cut, the sharp blade cuts deep into the thick wood. Sawdust flies in the sunlight filtering through the canopy, creating a scene that is both powerful and enchanting. The crane reaches its steel arm high into the trees, encircling the trunk waiting to be cut. With each wind of the chainsaw, a section of the tree is released, and the crane gently lifts it down, precise and powerful in the air. The razor-sharp chainsaw screams in bursts, echoing through the forest air. It's not just machinery at work, it's the sound of tension rising. The seasoned lumberjack stands firm, eyes sharp, moving toward the towering trunk like a warrior entering the battlefield. Without hesitation, he brings the blade close with cold precision. Bit by bit, he pushes the steel teeth into the aged wood. The trunk begins to crack, exposing pale, fibrous layers as the chain digs deeper. Carefully placed wooden wedges are driven in at just the right moment, not only to prevent the tree from twisting, but to guide the chainsaw with precision and ease. He steps back, assesses, then commits to the final decisive cut. The tree shudders, then, crash, the mighty trunk collapses onto the earth, as if surrendering to the mastery and power of human hands. A perfect coordination between the roaring chainsaw and the powerful strikes of the hammer against the wedge. The saw screams, the hammer thunders, like two instruments harmonizing in a symphony of force. In mere moments, the massive trunk gives way. With a thunderous crash, the tree falls, marking humanity's precise and powerful triumph over nature. In the garden, a worker used a chainsaw to cut into a large, charred tree trunk. As the trunk swayed, a forestry machine approached and gently pushed the tree to safety. A group of workers are cutting down a giant burnt tree in the forest. The chainsaw slices through the tree base with precision, while the powerful pusher arm moves in to guide the fall. With strength and control, the tree is safely brought down in seconds. On a large tree that shaded the entire garden, the worker clung to the trunk, skillfully moving between each large branch. He used a chainsaw to trim the long branches, sawdust falling to the ground below. On a steep slope in the middle of a deep forest, a worker in protective gear was cutting down a large tree, holding tightly onto a roaring chainsaw. The saw blade dug deep into the tree trunk, sawdust flying everywhere with each powerful cut. The wind blew. The tree shook slightly, then tilted and fell down the slope. With each push of the saw, the branch weakens. One wrong move could be dangerous, but he makes it look effortless. Deep in the pine forest, where the wind howls through the treetops, the roar of a chainsaw tears through the silence. The lumberjack moves between towering trunks, each step as cautious as tracking a wild beast. With skilled hands and a chainsaw that growls like a predator, he begins the conquest of the forest giants. Every cut is a dance between man and nature, wild, calculated, and spine-chillingly precise. High above the vast canopy of a tree in a quiet garden, a worker hangs himself by a sturdy safety rope, standing on a bare tree trunk. With a chainsaw in hand, he carefully measures and cuts each large piece of the tree trunk, each piece nearly a meter long.
I am. Oh, bro. Brother.
As each piece breaks off, it is lowered down by a rope held by a teammate below, ensuring absolute safety. Sawdust falls in the wind. Sunlight shines through the foliage onto the helmet, creating a scene that is both tense and spectacular.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
A fallen tree, uprooted as if torn by nature's fury. The man approaches, gripping his sharp chainsaw with steady hands. Each decisive cut echoes through the silence. The saw completes its task with cold precision. Suddenly, the base springs back, snapping into place, as if defying gravity to reclaim its ground. A moment that feels like both an ending and a beginning. A lumberjack steps into the forest, armed with the powerful steel MS-362 chainsaw. With calm precision, he begins to cut into the tree's trunk. The roar of the engine echoes through the woods as sawdust flies. Each move is skillful, ensuring the tree falls safely in the planned direction. This is the strength and mastery of a seasoned professional at work. In the middle of the forest, a giant tree towered over the trees, its trunk so thick that 2 men could not span it. A worker in protective gear and a hard hat gripped a chainsaw as he cut into the thick trunk. Sawdust flew everywhere, and a deafening screech echoed through the wilderness. The tree began to sway slightly, then slowly fell, creating a resounding crash. A moment both majestic and overwhelming.
Kurang ini.
Kuhaannya kurang dalam ya.
Kuhaan dalam cuma kurang talas. Sedikit saja. Itu pohon tapi.
In the quiet, deep forest, the worker wearing protective gear and helmet slowly approached with a chainsaw. He made a precise cut at the base of the tree, took out a wedge and a large hammer. With strong blows, he drove the wedge into the cut to direct the direction of the tree's fall. The hammer rang out in a steady rhythm. The tree began to shake, crack, and then collapse. The chainsaw screams. Its piercing roar echoes through the forest. A sharp blade meets the tree's solid flesh, kicking up a storm of sawdust. The lumberjack, with precision and determination, moves swiftly, each motion pushing closer to the goal, to bring down this towering giant with speed and certainty. In the middle of the forest, a black tree trunk. A worker wearing a hard hat, holding a chainsaw, the sound of the saw echoing in the quiet space. The saw blade screeched violently, cutting through the spongy burnt wood on the outside, deep inside the hard core, creating a powerful and cinematic scene. A massive tree, towering and strong. But today, it meets its match. With the mighty Husqvarna chainsaw in hand, the operator begins the first deep cut. The blade bites through the solid trunk with raw precision. Step by step, notch by notch, the giant starts to give way. And then, a final roar, and it crashes down. Power, control, and respect for the forest. This is timber work at its finest. The sharp chainsaw screams to life, biting deep into the tree trunk like a blade tearing through old timber. Wood chips scatter in all directions, spinning with the fury of each rotation. In mere seconds, the tree is brought down swiftly, crashing. A worker wearing protective gear and a safety harness hangs securely from a tree trunk. In his hand is a compact chainsaw, roaring loudly. He carefully trims each branch. The branches are tied with ropes, slowly lowered to the ground where a support team is waiting. The chainsaw roars to life, echoing through the forest. Without hesitation, she moves in close. The blade bites deep, sawdust bursts into the air. The chainsaw screams with a cold edge. In seconds, the blade tears into the log. No hesitation, just one decisive cut. The timber snaps and crashes down with force.